The fall of Trilia. The planet Trilia had always been a beacon of peace in a galaxy often marred by conflict. Its lush landscapes, vibrant cities, and harmonious societies thrived under a gentle sun that seemed to bless its inhabitants with prosperity. The Trillians, as they called themselves, were a species known for their intellect, creativity, and deep connection to their world. They had developed advanced technologies that harmonized with nature rather than exploited it, making them unique among their galactic neighbors. However, this tranquility was shattered when the Shins, a ruthless race known for their militaristic conquests, set their sights on Trilia. They viewed the Trillians as nothing more than weak prey, ripe for slaughter. As massive Cheyenne warships descended upon the planet, their ominous silhouettes blotted out the sun, casting shadows over cities that had stood for millennia. Panic erupted as alarms blared through the streets. Families scrambled to find shelter, while government officials attempted to coordinate a defense that was never meant to withstand such overwhelming force. Brer watched in horror from his university's observation deck as explosions rocked his beloved city. He could hardly comprehend what was happening. One moment he was attending a lecture on sustainable energy solutions, and the next he was witnessing his world unraveling before his eyes. The once bustling streets were now filled with chaos. People fleeing, buildings crumbling, and fires raging uncontrollably. His heart sank as he realized that his mentor, Dr. Zvox, a brilliant scientist who had dedicated his life to bettering their society, was trapped beneath the rubble of their university. The Galactic Federation had promised protection to all member planets against aggressors like the Shins. Yet when the invasion began, they did not come to Trilia's aid. Instead, they abandoned them to their fate, citing political concerns and bureaucratic red tape as reasons for their inaction. Brer felt a mix of anger and despair. How could they turn their backs on those in need? As he huddled in an underground bunker with a handful of survivors, fellow students and faculty members, the stench of death filled the air around them. Days passed without any sign of hope. The survivors sent distress calls into the void of space, but received no response. Only silence greeted their pleas for help. It seemed that every species in the galaxy had turned away from them, deeming them too weak to be worth saving. As despair threatened to consume him, Brer clung to one last glimmer of hope: contacting humanity. The stories he had heard about humans were mixed. They were known for their fierce independence, but also for being aggressive and unpredictable. Yet deep down, he believed that if any species would understand their plight, and perhaps even come to their rescue, it would be them. With trembling hands, Brer activated the holographic projector in front of him, praying it would connect with someone who could help. Suddenly, a human face appeared amidst static, a man with piercing blue eyes framed by dark hair. "This is Captain James Hawkins of the UES Endeavor," he said firmly but compassionately. "We received your distress call and are en route to provide assistance. Hold tight. Help is on the way." Brer's heart leaped at those words, but quickly sank again under a wave of skepticism. Could they truly trust these strangers? What if they were just like everyone else who had abandoned them? Yet deep down, he knew they had no choice. If help didn't arrive soon, all would be lost. "Thank you, Captain Hawkins," Brer managed to say through his shaking voice as he relayed their coordinates. "Please hurry." Hours later, hope transformed into reality as Captain Hawkins' ship landed near what remained of Brer's university. As he stepped onto Trillian soil flanked by his crew, Lieutenant Commander Thompson with her fiery red hair and Dr. Reeves with kind eyes, Brer felt both awe and trepidation at these humans who had come to assist them. "I'm so sorry," Captain Hawkins said gently as he surveyed the devastation around him. "I can't imagine what you've been through." His expression was etched with sorrow, a stark contrast to how Brer imagined humans might react in such dire circumstances. Tears pricked at Brer's eyes as he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over him after so much death and destruction. This simple kindness from a stranger was almost too much to bear. Dr. Reeves immediately set to work triaging wounded survivors, while Lieutenant Commander Thompson organized search teams amidst the rubble. But Brer knew it wasn't enough. They needed more than medical assistance. They needed a plan to fight back against the Shens, who sought to annihilate his people completely. With determination burning in his chest, he approached Captain Hawkins once more. "Captain," Brer said firmly but respectfully, "I am grateful for your aid, but we must do more than treat the wounded or bury our dead. We must fight back. The Shens will not stop until they have conquered or killed us all." Captain Hawkins met his gaze with unwavering resolve. "I understand," he replied solemnly. "We will do whatever we can to help you defend your home. You have my word." For the first time since chaos erupted across Trilia, Brer felt a flicker of hope ignite within him, a belief that perhaps together they could stand against this monstrous threat that loomed over them all. Arrival of the humans. The atmosphere on Trilia had shifted dramatically since the arrival of Captain Hawkins and his crew. The once quiet underground bunker, filled with despair and the scent of decay, now buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose. Brer stood at the center of the makeshift command room, surrounded by humans and Trillians alike, all working tirelessly to formulate a plan to repel the Cheyenne invaders. The human presence. Captain Hawkins was a figure of strength and determination. His leadership style inspired confidence in those around him, and his crew mirrored that resolve. Lieutenant Commander Thompson, with her fiery red hair tied back in a practical braid, moved with precision as she organized the Trillian volunteers into teams. Dr. Reeves was busy tending to the wounded, his gentle demeanor providing comfort amidst the chaos. As Brer observed the humans interacting with his people, he felt a mix of admiration and apprehension. The humans were different, more aggressive and direct than the Trillians, but they were also fiercely loyal and committed to their cause. He had heard tales of their bravery in battles far from home, but witnessing it firsthand was something entirely different. Strategizing for survival. "All right, everyone," Captain Hawkins called out, drawing attention to himself. "We need to come up with a plan that allows us to strike back effectively against the Shens. Our first priority is to protect the remaining civilians." Brer stepped forward, feeling the surge of determination. "We have to disrupt their supply lines," he suggested. "If we can cut off their resources, we can weaken their hold on our planet." Hawkins nodded thoughtfully. "Agreed. Thompson, can you organize a team for reconnaissance? We need eyes on their supply routes." "On it," she replied, already pulling up maps on her datapad. As plans began to take shape, Brer felt a sense of camaraderie forming among them. Humans and Trillians were united in their fight for survival, and that bond was becoming stronger with each passing moment. The first mission. Days turned into weeks as they prepared for their first mission against the Shens. The atmosphere was tense but charged with hope. Training sessions were held daily. Humans taught Trillians how to use advanced weaponry, while Trillians shared their knowledge of local terrain and tactics. Finally, the day arrived for their first strike. They had identified a key supply depot located just outside one of the major Cheyenne strongholds. It was heavily guarded, but they believed that with careful planning and teamwork, they could succeed. Brer found himself partnered with Lieutenant Commander Thompson for this mission. As they gathered equipment and weapons, he felt a mix of excitement and fear. "Are you ready?" Thompson asked, her eyes locking onto his. "I have no choice," Brer replied with a determined nod. "For my people." They set out under the cover of darkness, moving stealthily through the ruins of what was once Brer's home city. The night air was thick with tension as they approached the Cheyenne Supply Depot, a massive structure surrounded by high walls and patrolled by armed guards. Infiltration. The plan was simple: create a distraction while a small team infiltrated the depot to sabotage its operations. As they neared the perimeter, Brer's heart raced. He could see Cheyenne soldiers moving about like predatory beasts. "Now," Thompson whispered sharply as she threw a flashbang into the air above the guards' heads. The explosion lit up the night sky, momentarily blinding everyone in its vicinity. Brer seized the opportunity and sprinted toward an unguarded entrance alongside Thompson and several other team members. Inside, chaos erupted as alarms blared through the facility. They moved quickly through narrow corridors, lined with crates marked with strange symbols, giant supplies meant for war. "Over here," Brer shouted as he spotted a control panel that appeared to be central to their operations. As he began working on it, Thompson kept watch at the door. "Hurry up. We don't have much time." With frantic fingers, Brer hacked into the system using knowledge gleaned from his studies on Trillian technology, combined with what he had learned from his human allies. The screen flickered before him as he navigated through layers of security protocols. "Got it," he exclaimed as he initiated a shutdown sequence for their supply chain. The aftermath. Suddenly, gunfire erupted outside. Cheyenne soldiers had regained their composure and were storming toward their location. "We need to get out of here now," Thompson yelled. Brer felt adrenaline surge through him as they raced back toward the exit they had entered through. Just as they burst outside into the open air, they were met by several Cheyenne soldiers who had been alerted to their presence. "Take cover," Thompson shouted as she fired her weapon at one of them while pulling Brer behind an abandoned vehicle for protection. They fought fiercely but were outnumbered. Just when it seemed like defeat was imminent, reinforcements arrived. Hawkins and his team had come charging in from another angle. With renewed strength from their human allies joining in, Brer felt hope ignite within him once more. Together, they formed a defensive line against overwhelming odds until finally breaking free from enemy fire. As they regrouped after successfully sabotaging the supply depot, a significant blow against Cheyenne operations, Brer felt an overwhelming sense of pride wash over him. This was only the beginning of what they could achieve together. The taste of victory was sweet but bittersweet as well. Many lives had been lost in this fight already, both Trillian and human, and there would be more battles ahead before peace could be restored to Trillia once more. Yet amidst all this chaos lay an undeniable truth. They were no longer alone in this fight for survival. Humans had come to stand beside them when every other species turned away, and together they would rise against those who sought to destroy them all, forming a resistance. With the capture of General Zorak, the tide of battle had shifted in favor of the Trillians and their human allies. The Cheyenne forces, demoralized by the loss of their leader and the exposure of their plans, began to retreat. However, Brer knew that this was not the end. It was merely a reprieve. The remnants of the Cheyenne army would regroup and strike again if they were not dealt with decisively. The aftermath of victory. As dawn broke over the devastated city, Brer surveyed the destruction left in the wake of the invasion. Buildings lay in ruins, streets were littered with debris, and the air was thick with smoke. Yet amidst this desolation, there was a sense of hope. Survivors emerged from hiding, and Trillian volunteers began to clear rubble and tend to the wounded. Humans worked alongside them, sharing medical supplies and expertise, reinforcing the bond that had formed between their species. Brer stood on a makeshift platform, addressing a gathering of Trillians and humans who had come together to discuss their next steps. "We have fought valiantly," he began, his voice steady despite the exhaustion weighing on him. "But our victory is incomplete. The Cheyennes will not rest until they have reclaimed what they believe is theirs. We must prepare for their return." Captain Hawkins stood beside him, nodding in agreement. "Brer is right. We need to establish a coordinated resistance that can respond swiftly to any further Cheyenne attacks. This won't be easy, but we have proven that together we can achieve what seemed impossible. Building a coalition." The meeting quickly turned into a brainstorming session as ideas flowed freely among the gathered crowd. Trillian engineers proposed using their advanced technology to create defensive measures around key locations. Human soldiers offered tactics learned from their own battles against overwhelming odds. "Let's set up lookout posts around the perimeter of the city," Lieutenant Commander Thompson suggested. "If we can spot Cheyenne movements early enough, we can mobilize our forces before they reach civilian areas." "That's a great idea," Brer replied enthusiastically. We can use drones equipped with surveillance technology to monitor for any signs of Cheyenne activity. As discussions continued late into the night, Brer felt a sense of camaraderie growing among them, a shared purpose that transcended species boundaries. They were united not just by necessity, but by a newfound respect for one another's strengths. Training together. In the days that followed, training sessions became a regular occurrence. Humans taught Trillians how to handle firearms and conduct tactical maneuvers, while Trillians shared their knowledge of guerrilla warfare tactics suited for their terrain. Brer found himself working closely with Thompson as they trained together in a makeshift gymnasium constructed from salvaged materials. "You're getting better," she remarked as she watched him practice aiming his plasma rifle. "I'm trying to keep up with you," Brer replied with a grin, wiping sweat from his brow. Thompson smiled back, but then grew serious. "This isn't just about fighting. It's about survival. We need to protect our people and ensure that what happened here never happens again." Brer nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of her words. They were not just fighting for themselves, but for future generations. Trillians who deserved to live free from fear. The first major operation. After weeks of preparation, intelligence reports indicated that a significant Cheyenne force was regrouping at an abandoned mining facility on the outskirts of Trillia. This would be their first major operation since forming the resistance, and both sides understood its importance. "We have to hit them hard and fast," Hawkins instructed during a strategy meeting with key leaders from both species. "If we can take out their command structure at that facility, it will send a message that we will not be intimidated." Brer felt a surge of determination as he listened to Hawkins outline their plan. They would launch a combined assault. Human soldiers would engage directly while Trillian fighters used hit-and-run tactics to disrupt supply lines. As they finalized details, Brer caught Thompson's eye across the table. She nodded reassuringly at him. They had come so far together. Now it was time to put everything they had learned into action. The assault begins. On the day of the operation, tension hung thick in the air as they assembled at dawn near the mining facility. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, a stark contrast to the grim task ahead. "Remember your training," Hawkins reminded everyone as they prepared for deployment. "Stay focused on your objectives and watch each other's backs." With hearts pounding in anticipation, they moved out under cover of darkness toward their target. As they approached the facility, Brer felt adrenaline coursing through him. This was it, the moment they had all been preparing for. As planned, human forces initiated contact first, blasting through barricades while Trillian fighters flanked them from hidden positions within the rocky terrain surrounding the facility. "Now," Thompson shouted as she led Brer into action alongside her team. They sprinted forward, plasma rifles raised high as chaos erupted around them. Cheyenne soldiers scrambled in confusion under heavy fire from both sides. Engaging in battle, Brer fought fiercely alongside Thompson. He felt alive amidst the chaos as he fired his weapon at advancing Cheyenne soldiers who were desperately trying to regroup. "Keep pushing forward," Thompson yelled over the din of battle as explosions rocked nearby structures. They moved deeper into enemy territory, taking out guards stationed at various points along their path, until finally reaching what appeared to be an operations center, the heart of Cheyenne Command within this facility. "Let's breach this door," Brer shouted as he kicked it open with all his strength. Inside lay rows of monitors displaying tactical maps and communication feeds. This was where critical decisions were made regarding troop movements across Trillia. "Cover me," Thompson shouted as she rushed toward one console, while Brer provided suppressive fire against incoming Cheyenne reinforcements, trying desperately to protect their command center. A turning point. Just then, an explosion rocked through one side of the building. The main entrance had been breached by human forces. The sound reverberated through every corner as chaos reigned supreme within those walls. "Now's our chance," Brer yelled excitedly, while pushing forward alongside Thompson toward another console displaying vital intel on enemy operations throughout Trillia. with every second counting down against them amidst frantic gunfire echoing around them. Brer quickly accessed crucial information detailing supply routes leading directly back toward Cheyenne's strongholds across Trilia. "This is it," he exclaimed triumphantly after downloading everything onto his datapad just before Thompson pulled him back toward safety amid heavy fire raining down upon them from all directions. As they fought their way back out into open ground where human forces awaited outside, it became clear that today would mark an important turning point in their struggle against oppression. With renewed determination surging through him after witnessing firsthand what unity could accomplish, Brer vowed never again would anyone abandon those who needed help most. Together, humans and trillions alike, they would forge ahead toward victory, no matter how daunting or dangerous it might seem. The turning point. The aftermath of the battle was both a moment of triumph and a stark reminder of the cost of war. As Brer stood amidst the ruins of Trilia, he felt the weight of loss pressing heavily on his heart. The streets, once vibrant with life, were now silent except for the sounds of reconstruction efforts. Humans and Trillians worked side by side, clearing debris and tending to the wounded, their camaraderie forged in the crucible of conflict. A new resolve. Captain Hawkins approached Brer, his face smeared with soot and sweat, but his expression resolute. "We did it," he said, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "We actually did it." Brer nodded, still processing the victory. "But at what cost?" he murmured, glancing at the remnants of buildings that had once housed families, schools, and dreams. "So many lives lost." Hawkins placed a reassuring hand on Brer's shoulder. "We honor them by continuing to fight for what they believed in. This isn't over yet. We need to prepare for whatever comes next." The Shans had retreated for now, but Brer knew they would regroup and return with a vengeance. General Zorek's capture had sent shockwaves through their ranks, but it was only a matter of time before they sought revenge. Planning for the future. In the days that followed, Brer and Hawkins convened a meeting with key leaders from both species to discuss their next steps. The atmosphere was charged with determination as they gathered in a makeshift command center set up in what remained of the university. "We need to establish a proper defense," Brer began, addressing the assembled crowd. "If we're going to protect our people and rebuild our world, we must fortify our positions and prepare for another attack." Thompson chimed in, her fiery red hair framing her face as she spoke passionately. "We've seen how effective hit-and-run tactics can be against Cheyenne supply lines. We should continue that strategy while also setting up permanent defenses around key locations." Dr. Reeves added, "And we need to focus on medical support for our people. Many are still suffering from injuries sustained during the invasion." Hawkins nodded in agreement. "Let's divide our efforts. One group will focus on fortifying defenses, while another will work on medical support and training. We can't afford to be complacent. We need to stay vigilant." A growing alliance. As plans took shape, Brer felt a renewed sense of purpose among his people. The humans had not only provided military support, they had also instilled hope where there had been despair. Trillions who once felt abandoned now rallied around their human allies, united by shared experiences and common goals. Brer found himself working closely with Thompson as they mapped out strategic locations for defensive structures. Barricades made from rubble and remnants of Cheyenne technology repurposed for their own use. "I never thought I'd be building defenses alongside humans," Brer remarked as they surveyed an area that would become a critical stronghold. "Strange how circumstances can change everything," Thompson replied with a smile. "I think we've proven that together we're stronger than apart." The calm before the storm. Weeks passed as they fortified their positions and trained tirelessly for any potential resurgence of Cheyenne forces. The atmosphere was tense but filled with purpose. Every day brought new challenges, yet every challenge was met with determination. However, beneath this facade of calm lay an undercurrent of anxiety. Reports began filtering in from scouts about unusual activity near Cheyenne strongholds, troop movements that suggested they were preparing for another assault. One evening, as Brer reviewed surveillance footage with Hawkins and Thompson, His heart sank at what he saw. Giant warships were assembling in orbit above Trilia. "They're coming back," Brer said grimly, pointing at the screen displaying the ominous fleet gathering above them. Hawkins' jaw tightened as he processed this information. "We need to act fast. We can't let them catch us off guard again." The final preparations. With time running out, Brer called an emergency meeting to rally everyone together once more. The room was filled with tension as he addressed both humans and Trillians alike. "This is our home," he declared passionately. "We've fought too hard to let it slip away again. We will stand together against this threat." The crowd erupted into cheers, an affirmation of their resolve that echoed through the makeshift command center. "Let's finalize our plans," Hawkins said firmly after the cheers subsided. "We'll set up a two-pronged defense. One group will fortify key locations while another prepares for an offensive strike against their fleet. The battle begins. As night fell over Trilia, preparations reached a fever pitch. Soldiers from both species took their positions along fortified barricades, while others readied themselves for an offensive strike against the Cheyenne warships looming above. Brer stood alongside Thompson at one of the main defensive points overlooking the city's entrance, a strategic location that would provide them with an advantage if Cheyenne forces attempted to breach their defenses. "Are you ready?" Thompson asked, her eyes sharp with focus. "As ready as I'll ever be," Brer replied, gripping his plasma rifle tightly. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout their encampment. The Cheyennes had launched their attack. Engaging in battle. The sky lit up with explosions as Cheyenne ships descended upon Trilia like vultures circling prey. Plasma bolts flew through the air as both sides engaged in fierce combat. Trillians defending their home while humans fought alongside them with unwavering courage. Brer moved through the chaos alongside Thompson. They fought side by side against overwhelming odds as waves of Cheyenne soldiers surged toward them. "Hold your ground," Thompson shouted amidst gunfire as she fired her weapon at approaching foes. Brer felt adrenaline surge through him. Every shot fired was not just for survival, but for vengeance, for all those who had suffered under Cheyenne oppression. As they fought fiercely against relentless waves of enemies, Brer caught sight of Hawkins leading human forces into battle, a beacon of strength amidst chaos. A pivotal moment. Just when it seemed like defeat was imminent, when hope began to wane, a loud explosion rang out across the battlefield as human ships swooped down from above, launching missiles that struck key Cheyenne vessels midair. "Now's our chance," Hawkins yelled over comms as he rallied everyone forward into battle. With renewed determination surging within them all, Trillians and humans charged forward together, their combined strength overwhelming even the fiercest Cheyenne soldiers. Brer fought valiantly alongside his allies. Together they pushed through enemy lines until finally reaching what remained of Zorak's command center, the very heart of Cheyenne operations on Trilia. The final confrontation. Inside lay remnants of chaos, Cheyenne soldiers scrambling to regroup while others lay defeated on the ground. But there stood General Zorak himself, a figure cloaked in darkness who had orchestrated so much suffering across Trilia. "You think you can defeat me?" Zorak snarled defiantly as he raised his weapon against them. But before he could pull the trigger, Brer stepped forward boldly. "It ends here," he declared fiercely before firing his plasma rifle directly at Zorak's chest, the shot striking true. Zorak staggered backward, a look of shock etched across his face as he fell lifelessly onto the floor. Silence enveloped them all, a moment frozen in time, as realization washed over everyone present. They had done it. They had defeated Zorak, the architect behind so much pain. Aftermath and reflection. As dawn broke over Trilia once more, the sun casting light upon a battlefield littered with debris, Brer stood alongside Hawkins and Thompson surveying what remained after such fierce fighting. "We did it," Hawkins said quietly, a mixture of disbelief and relief evident in his voice. "Yes," Brer replied softly, but even amidst victory, his heart felt heavy knowing how much had been lost along this journey toward freedom. yet looking around at those who stood beside him, humans and trillions united by shared sacrifice, he felt hope blossom anew within him. Together, they would rebuild not just their world, but also forge bonds stronger than any war could sever. In this moment, their unity shone brighter than any star. They would rise from ashes left behind, together, and create a future worth fighting for.